Let's go now to the wall so we can talk about where we are at this hour with the war in Ukraine and what we can expect to see potentially over the next number of hours. For the first time in history, NATO has called up its fast action force that will ultimately help fortify the alliance's positions on its eastern front. Now, that says to us that NATO is concerned that either Putin is not going to stay in Ukraine, and he may try to attack that eastern front, or maybe they are willing to engage. That's 40,000 troops from the alliance as the conflict continues to get bloodier. Here you see the bases and the locations of some of the United States troops. As you know, President Biden has announced the repositioning of thousands of forces to Poland, Lithuania, Romania, and Estonia. Those border countries are starting to deal with what may become a massive refugee crisis as people flood out of the country. The United Nations has confirmed some 50,000 Ukrainians have fled the country. We expect that number to grow exponentially as the war gets worse. Okay, now let's take a look at the Russian advances. Again, this remains a three-front assault against Ukraine, from the south in Crimea, from the east in the Donbas region, from the north coming in from Belarus, and we are hearing that Putin may open up a western position. There's an area down here called Transnistria where there is an existing Russian separatist-backed organized group. That could be an area where we may see some more activity. Let's look at what Russia has managed to now accomplish over the last 24 to 36 hours. Sources are saying that Russian forces have now entered Kyiv and Kherson down here near Crimea. For the first time, they've also carried out additional air and missile strikes on military and civilian targets. And that's really important because that shows you that they are hitting roads and bridges and also apartment buildings. So civilians are now in the crossfire on this. This is not just military targets. Russian forces entered the outskirts of Kyiv along the West Bank of the Dnipro River, and reports have indicated Russian sabotage groups in civilian clothing have moved into the downtown of the capital city there. So this is not just a traditional military operation. It already has some elements of guerrilla warfare. Yesterday, Ukrainian forces were handing out thousands of guns to civilians in Kyiv. It is anticipated that Russian forces will likely take Kharkiv in the next 24 hours, and that will also be under their control. North of Crimea, Russian forces have formally captured Kherson, so that is also now under Russian control from what we understand, and they are poised to take Melitopol over here just to the east of that. Odessa to the west could be the next target on the southern front. U.S. authorities believe that the Ukrainian ground forces are putting up a much bigger fight over the last 24 hours than Putin expected. But now is when it starts to get really dangerous, folks, because they're putting up a fight. Russia has the ability to really turn on its air power and really command the skies. So that could be a new phase of this that could start in the coming days. You can see this is a mismatch. The Ukrainians do not have much of an air force. The Russians have clear air superiority, and that means that this gets more destructive and more deadly very quickly. It's the reason why President Zelensky has asked for NATO to enforce that no-fly zone. And we're hearing troubling reports out of the Associated Press that President Biden has offered President Zelensky with assistance to leave the country, to actually abandon his own country. Sources saying that Zelensky has refused, saying that he needs help, not a ride. And just in, the Ukrainian Secret Service is reporting that Russian forces in the Donbas region over here are handing out gas masks and may be planning to blow up chemical stockpiles there. So this engagement seems poised to enter a new deadly phase unless there is some sort of dramatic shift. Bombardment of the Ukrainian capital continues as President Zelensky has called for his people to fight back. And satellite imagery is showing another buildup of forces in Belarus. For the latest on the ground, let's go to Newsmax correspondent Sarah Williamson in Kyiv. Sarah, what's the latest there?
Yes. Hi, Tom. That was an incredible breakdown that you have just given of all the information that we have here on the ground. But I just want to add to that by telling you we do have breaking news that the Russian army, there has been information leaked that the Russian army have been ordered to broaden their Ukraine advance from all directions. Now, take that whatever way you will, whether it means that we are expecting them to come from the sky now, whether it's coming from the sea, because we know that they have done that already. But as you mentioned, they have mostly been attacking from the ground. And you did say Ukraine doesn't have much of an air force in comparison to the Russians. So this could be a very detrimental way to very detrimental attack on the Ukrainian military if this is in fact the case. But we have also got word from a contact of mine that at the moment Kyiv is under siege. The Russian invaders have been preparing for complete encirclement as we speak. They are edging closer and closer to the city at the moment as we speak. And this is very early on in the night. If this is the case, majority of the time that the Russian invaders do come closer to the city and do try and make their moves, it happens a little bit later in the evening when most people have gone to sleep. We are currently under a lockdown at the moment from 5 p.m. until 8 a.m. Everybody in the city of Kyiv does have to remain inside their houses. We have been told by Mayor Vitaly Klitschko that anybody who is outside of their houses or caught outside of their houses will be treated as the Russians and will be arrested and treated as such. Now, so we have actually left the city of Kyiv at the moment and are just on the outskirts so we can leave our apartments, keep ourselves safe, of course, is the primary reason for that, and still maintain our reporting to you. But if this is the case, it is going to be a very intense night for the people of Kyiv, knowing that the Russians have been ordered to broaden their Ukraine advance in any direction. Of course, not just on Kyiv, but in the whole country.
Sarah, what does the defensive posture of the Ukrainians around the city look like? Are you seeing columns of tanks? Are you seeing large numbers or battalions of soldiers? What kind of resistance are the Russians going to meet as they try to press into the center part of the city?
Well, Tom, that's a good question, but we are under strict instruction to not give away any information about how the Ukrainian military is preparing for obvious reasons. But there is a very strong military presence here in the city. We do know, of course, that it's not just to trained military now, but civilians have now taken up arms as well. As we were driving around Kyiv today, we saw the military preparing for the night ahead of them. I'm not going to explain how, but there is preparations underway for a heavy night ahead. So they weren't ready to stand down. They won the first night. There was announcements saying that they managed to fight off the enemy, but they didn't get ahead of themselves. They know that they still have a long way to go here, and they are preparing for as such. They know that this is going to be a long and heavy battle, and they are aware of this, and they're preparing for this in the best way that they possibly can.
All right. Thank you to our Sarah Williamson. Please stay safe out there. We appreciate that report.